To kick this off, Chelsea, how do share goals build communications between merchants and service providers?
Yes, what I want to make sure we talk about is anything within security. There's also always multiple partners, and ultimately we are part of a symbiotic relationship with similar goals. And through those relationships, we're able to define what our common goal is, how we get to success, and what success looks like, and then how we are able to communicate that very concisely and regularly to our stakeholders and clients. So we have consistent communications between all three layers of our, I say layers, but through all three interested parties. Tom, can I ask you, is there an example that you have with a QSA or a service provider where there was a lack of trust and it made your job more difficult?
Absolutely. So, in reviewing our systems, we had a QSA with prior experience with our organization. It was a very contentious experience that he had. It made that review difficult, caused that person to question everything, and even though that we had evidence that was blatantly clear, it caused him to question it. So it almost felt retaliatory. And had he taken a different approach, it would have made for an easier assessment. We rely on our professional partners, to help us through these things. But sometimes human nature kicks in, and it makes things a little more difficult. So, Chels, in comparison, what about have you ever had experiences with trust relationships in the same?
Yeah, I actually have a number of them. Within our organization at FIS, we work with multiple QSA firms across multiple standards. I know Andrew earlier did a presentation across the 15 standards. We are assessed against many of those. And because of the relationships that we've been able to build with our QSAs, we have that trust. We're able to call early, not wait for the assessment period to start working through challenges, but are able to start those early. And I will say an example, with the change in 4.0 for authenticated scanning and the additional requirement where all vulnerabilities must be remediated within your targeted risk analysis, we've already been through 1/4 of those authenticated scans getting ready for our 2025 assessments, and they were looking like they were failing. So we early on got in a call with our QSA that is will be doing those assessments to plan ahead, say, we're not going to have this conversation 90 days prior to our compliance date. We know what we have and how do we set that benchmark.
Sure.
So it's those early conversations we're able to have, and these are not always formal conversations. So we're able to just pick up the phone or send a quick email and say, this is what's going on, can we get your response? I would say we also do that a lot with our clients. And our clients at FIS are merchants, there are other financial institutions, pretty much anywhere, I was going to say anything within the payments ecosystem falls into our client list. And we're able to address their concerns early on.
Sure.
And a lot of questions we'll get is what are you, FIS, doing for PCI compliance? We're able to, again, have a conversation through our account managers, letting them know what we are doing or what our plans are. So I think it's just being able to pick up that phone and know that we're all working from the same playbook of getting to not just compliance, but we're really worried about security. Compliance is just that cap, that feather in our cap that says, yes, we truly are secure.
Absolutely.
I want to jump in there.
Yeah.
So I think when we talk about the number of relationships that you have, any third-party service provider you work with, trust is paramount. You want to know that the advice you're being given and what you're communicating is being received, heard. Where you have contention, where you have an adversarial concept that's muddying the communications between your organizations. This prevents people from understanding what compliance doctrine you're trying to meet, what the objective is, maybe even how to utilize the tools in your environment to meet it. And when I've worked with Chelsea and Tom, these are the conversations that come up where I want Tom or Chelsea to say, this is my struggle. This is what I'm dealing with. And they're not seeing me as a hurdle as a QSA. And similarly, Tom's not seeing Chelsea as a hurdle for processing payments. We all have a shared objective here, and that's really the focus that we all have in our work and the impetus of this talk.
Absolutely. So, Sully, can you tell us a story contrasting when dialogue is there and when it's not there between a QSA and a client?
Absolutely. We were working with a service provider that wanted to implement a tokenization solution. Easy to say, difficult to do. How do you create these tokens? What guidance is there around it? And we met with them. They explained the business objective, how their clients are going to be connecting to them. And then we walked through. This is what you can do. This is how you can do it. We're not telling them what to do. We're just giving them avenues to succeed. Talking about how their existing framework can be leveraged to secure this method, creating a tokenization solution that was good. And then on the flip side of that, we had a client that was very guarded. It was always kind of like pulling teeth. You ask a question, what are you up to? You get single word answers. And they implemented a mobile application that accepted card data. Were not at all talking to us, didn't at all think about how they're going to manage this, update it. And as a result, security was not a primary consideration. They were breached, which erodes confidence in that organization, their third-party relationships, and ultimately all the cardholders. So, to that end, where we're talking about building relationships, how do you foster transparency with your clients, Chelsea?
Yes, so I was going to say again, at FIS, we have a world-class client portal. And so we have the relationship managers, we have the technical SMEs that are able to answer client questions. But when our clients are also doing their annual due diligence of their vendor or need a report, a third-party assurance report, we have a client portal. So what we have posted out there is all of our PCI AOCs for all the standards that we do, our SOC reports, our ISO. It is really a self-service portal for clients to be able to log in at any time.
Interactive.
To understand where we are. Yes, so they're able to download those. It also covers, we also post client-facing policies and security reports, those kind of items for the client to do the due diligence. So that is one method. We also have strategic account managers that are actively working with our clients, and as questions arise on security items or compliance items, they're able to come to the individual directors of those areas and speak with them. I always tell clients, and I would say anyone in this room, if you're a client of FIS, if you feel like you've hit a brick wall, let me know. We will get you to the right person, whether it's me or someone else. But I think it's also attending events like this, the community meeting and other industry events where we're able to build those relationships with clients that we may not directly work with. And I would say also with our assessors, because we are able to attend events, have that face-to-face interaction, and be able to take that into our, the next 12 months of work.
Right. Yeah.
So, Tom, anything to add on that in terms of, as a client, what have you seen? And I would say with multiple service providers, kind of how has that been cultivated within your org?
So, working with security professionals, right? And the key word there is professionals, right? It fosters a collaborative, open relationship where you don't have to worry what that person is going to take that information and do with it. It's to help you, it's to guide you. It's, while they're not giving you the exact steps to take, it's giving you some sort of path forward, right? They become more collaborative, more nurturing. So.
And I think, let me ask you, because you're in a unique position with the industry you're in. So PCI is obviously what we're here to talk about.
Absolutely.
But you have other regulatory requirements or industry standards that you need to follow.
Definitely.
How are you able to use those relationships with various service providers and your assessors across these different standards?
It's that open communication, right? Security is security is security. If I look at the folks that I talk to and those relationships that I foster, and I think about who I'm speaking to and where I am, it's that old adage that, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? These relationships are key to your success. They go from a simple audit exercise and they turn into, think tanks, and they turn into training for yourself and learning, and sometimes, as we can all attest to, they turn into therapy sessions.
I'm tired of being your therapist, Tom.
At least I'm not crying this time. So, and these strangers become your friends, they become your colleagues, they become a sounding board, and you all have a common goal, so why not attain it together? Which leads me to Sully. What's the greatest benefit you've seen with these trusted relationships and these partnerships that we're talking about here today?
Well, we're being really honest here. No one walks into a PCI assessment thinking like, yeah, let's do this. It's difficult. You got to display all the documentation you go through. If you're working with the new assessor, it's a different opinion. You have to go through, confirm scope. Did something change? Inevitably, something is not going to go smoothly. This is a difficult thing. But as a QSA, we want this path to be as smooth as possible. We want this to flow as steadily as possible. Why? Because that's how we keep our clients. That's how we have less headaches. Because anytime something's wrong, we've got to write something up. And we already have to write these huge reports that you have the privilege of reading. Not a single laugh on that one. All right. But it's tough. And we want that to go smoothly. And security doesn't need to be a mystery. There's no secret sauce. There's no unicorns or rainbows that are going to make this easier. And to have an open dialogue, to say, what are you trying to achieve? What are you working with? What data are you handling? Oh, you're handling PII in addition to PCI in this manner? Let's talk about the overlap between HIPAA and PCI. Let's simplify this. Let's make this more consistent for your organization to deal with. And that collaborative nature makes it a discussion and proactive instead of, again, we want to avoid an adversarial discussion at all costs. And then being able to say, what are you dealing with? What do you see? So to that edge, Chelsea, when you have a pretty heavy purview into what service providers and merchants see, how do you aggregate that knowledge and share it?
Again, I think it's through these kind of relationships. I was going to say through the relationships that we have, and I know we've all worked together for years in different positions and things. It's taking that. It's also finding those common pain points, and whether you are a merchant, a service provider, one of the bigger service providers or smaller, we all end up finding we have similar pain points, right. And it's how do we get through that? What are you doing best practice-wise? And I know with partners in this room that are probably not clients that I actively think of, but we've been able to have conversations, and I always say, let me know, reach out to me, send me an email, we'll get on a call. We do that a lot, and maybe it's because we have a similar assessor, and we're getting the same question. It's like, how are you getting through this, or what? We're trying to problem solve together. Right. And I think that's really where, again, I'm going to point back to events like this and being here in person to be able to build those relationships, walk by, who do you know, who don't you know that you can build in that network.
I think it speaks volumes to the panel up here. I mean, at some point in our journey, there were times where we didn't work together, right? But we still had that open line of communication, these relationships that we've built, to say, okay, I want to take your input because I trust it. I want to hear what you have to say because you've never steered me wrong before. As a merchant, I need that. I need someone that I can look at and say, hey, here are where my gaps are. I need help. So let's lean on the security professionals that you're working with and their knowledge, because they're seeing it from all different aspects, from all different areas and industries. So let's lean on them a little bit and have them help us, help them guide us through our journey as well.
It's true.
Yep.
I mean, we're all tied. We all have the same objective. When I get a call from Tom, which inevitably could be anything like, hey, you want to go get some Indian food? Or it could be something like, we have this problem. I got this AOC from this organization, and it doesn't read right. We're looking for this service, and this AOC says this. Do these match? It's a simple thing for me to look at, right? I write these things, and so I can say, well, this is missing, or this is spot on. This is great. This is exactly what you're looking for.
It's the sanity check.
Right. It is a sanity check. And then if I've got a question about the way that organizations are dealing with security control, I wouldn't be opposed to reaching out to Chelsea. And I mean, similarly to other QSAs. I mean, even though our competitors are here, I talk with them. How are you doing this? How are you assessing this? Because even if obviously they're our competitor, different organization, we ultimately both want the companies that we assess to get the best advice, and we want to do our jobs as effectively as possible.
Trusting those trusted relationships and trusting those AOCs that you're reading, knowing the people that wrote them.
Right.
That has to be huge for a QSA. I mean, it makes us feel better if we know who's written a report and we know their culture. It helps out a lot.
It does. Chelsea?
Yes, sir.
We have a few minutes left here. Do you have any final thoughts you would like to share with our esteemed colleagues?
Yeah, I can tell, I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd. You know, when you're up here, they say, oh, you can't really see everybody. No, I see you, Michael. I see you, Doug. So we can see who's out there, and it's always beneficial to see those smiling faces. But for me, it's all because we have that relationship, because we've been able to build that professionally with the same objectives. And as we've moved into different organizations, and again, these are people I've worked with over the years, either at FIS or previously, they've moved on. We have that built level of trust. We know where we are excel with our strengths, and are able to hone in on that network to help. Nobody's doing this alone. It really, I'm going to say PCI does take a village, because no part of the payments ecosystem exists in one just area. So it is a village of all of us working together. I was going to say, Tom, anything you would like to add on to that?
No, I think we summed it up pretty well. I mean, I feel like like semi-pro. Everybody love everybody, right? I think so bad. But it's good to have those partnerships, those relationships, and continue them on beyond, what you're doing at that moment, what that PCI assessment looks like. It's everyone gets stronger together, right?
Sully, from your take.
I would say everyone in this room at some point has made a meal, worked on a car, built IKEA furniture or something similar. And the last thing you want to do is you don't want to take that step and be like, I got to go back to the directions, right? Anybody who's tried baking something and then you're oh, I need 1 cup of this, go back to the directions. You don't want to do this. You want to have a plan. You want to have an understanding of what you're working with. And then even better, if you know a mechanic, if you've had somebody who's built IKEA furniture, or if you've ever worked with a chef, a baker, you can say, walk me through this. And they're going to say, read the directions in full. Go through this, and let's walk through this together. And on these journeys, because every QSA is going to be like, security is forever, and it is. It's hard to rally behind that term sometimes, but it's important to realize that you're not alone. And I implore all of you to seek relationships with your third-party service providers, with your QSA, with your acquirer, so that when you have a challenge, when you are struggling with an issue and you don't know how to address, you can say, do you know what I can do? Do you have recommendations for me? Can you help me solve this problem? Because that's what's going to make both businesses effective, more secure. And as a whole, the compromise of one is a detriment to many, and we want to avoid that at all costs.
Absolutely.
Agreed. All right. Well, I would just say thank you, everybody. We will definitely be out in the vendor showcase area and would be happy to talk through anything that we covered.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.